Good morning, everybody. It's Marty the JavaScript Party. It is Friday, the 3rd of April, 2026. It's a beautiful day. It is 66 degrees Fahrenheit outside here in Marietta, Georgia. It is 9:50. Now, most Fridays I do this show earlier, but we today is a holiday in Georgia, a state holiday. Very, very contentious, weird holiday. Probably not worth getting into, but let's just say that this has been an interesting holiday over the decades. I'll have Rhett in here, but my daughter-in-law brought her dogs today. She couldn't work yesterday. We have like a flu bug kind of popping around, and she couldn't work yesterday, but she came into work today and she brought her dogs and my granddaughter, and it's just wonderful. It's just amazing time. But um, we're working on this, and if you remember yesterday, this was all red. I think branches might have been 50% yesterday, but we have 10 statements that are currently uncovered. So let's click in here and see what they are. So we have this branch. So we call this, and we created animations yesterday. I'm just remembering this right now. Created animations yesterday, and then and we created these services and we passed it in, but we never populated any services. So basically, what we did was we sent a bunch of IDs in, but there is no corresponding ID in the code. So and then there was a bug. I mean, a breakage, like something. There was like a runtime error that appeared because when we tried to call, I believe it was the second one. Um, get animations for Mesh ID, or it might be the first one. I'm not sure. It could be 44 or 43. One of those lines ended up getting called um, and breaking because the corresponding mesh did not exist. So basically, what happens is this function takes a list of mesh IDs, a three mesh service, and an animation service. Um, and basically, um, these right here are runtime dependencies. Like this animation update animations for mesh ID doesn't even make any sense without a mesh service or animation service. But the problem is that both mesh service and animation service have to inject this service, or this would need to inject this if it was a service, and that would cause like a circular reference. So this was one of the solutions that I came up with, I guess in the past. Now I'm remembering that you could actually create the service and pass it into the function that needs to use it. That is another option. And I kind of forgot about that. So right now we kind of have three options. One is you could make functions. I haven't ever done this before, but it makes sense to me. You could take a function that was, if you just need access to some behavior from a singleton, you could just make it static and then access it statically. And that would mean access it by getting a reference to the entire class, and instead of the actual singleton, just get a reference to the class itself and then call it that way. That's one way to do it. And that to me seems like a great way to do it, because what I was doing alternatively is I was creating like this. Uh, I was creating classes, like sort of sibling twinsy sorts of classes that would have the static, the non the functions that aren't part of a singleton. It would have those in there, and then I could access them that way. Um, but I think creating an actual static function is better, and that's by putting like the keyword static in front of the function. Um, it's probably a better way to go. Um, so between like you could, so those are some of the things in your toolbox of things, and then finally you can get a reference to a function or to a service, a singleton service from the injector. You could defer that and do that at runtime. So those are kind of the different ideas. Apparently, there's some scenarios maybe where you can end up within this circular reference error through like various connections across different services. I don't know, but I've never experienced that before. I could kind of imagine it happening though. But anyway, so we need to. So I think this function is good and updated probably should not. Okay, so updated should be false in this scenario. So um, so that's good. So let's go to our ST animation class, and then let's close this and then reopen it. And here we are. And now let's go to our spec. Okay, so what did I do? Is it in here? No, that's maybe it's in here. No, because that's a service. This is a for root service. Okay, where am I? What am I doing here? Okay, 3animation class.ts. So you can almost always find any class, any file, specific file, by hitting Control P and then typing that up there. And then clearly things have gotten confusing, so I'm just going to close everything else, and then I'm going to come over here to my spec. Oh, okay, it was scrolled down. All right, so basically what we want to do is I guess we want to just like cult uh, empty result, empty unpopulated result. And we expect that empty unpopulated result to be false, right? So we type in expect and then the name of the function that we care about. There's like, this isn't like, there's a lot of ways to do this. So this is not like the only right way to do it, or if you do it some other way. There's just a lot going on. Um, to be false. So we expect that one to be false. And then this is const uh, what's the uh, value has value has um, ID mesh ID unpopulated result, and we expect this to be false as well. And then that goes here, and I think we're done with this one. Maybe not. Maybe it's always hard to figure out, but yeah, because that's the name. Okay, Control V. Okay, now. And I guess, okay, so we're basically what we want to do in this one is we want to populate our set our services. Now the thing is with the services is that trying to think with the services here we don't need this comment here. Um, so we'll be populating services, so we want to use the data in the services. All right, so we need to kind of think through our 3mesh service. And we call that and we get an actual 3 mesh. And now I believe that 3 mesh service probably returns the ID if I use it to create something. So const mesh ID, I think st mesh ID is equal to 3 mesh service. See, I feel like I need the st mesh service because I don't think this actually creates one. I think, oh, create mesh. Let's just try that. Okay, so we're going to create a mesh. Oh, so mesh wants something though. So let's go ahead and go to the definition of this guy. Okay, so it wants an ID, and then it'll actually create a new mesh with the ID. So I guess we'll do an ID of 1. And so this should end up just creating an entry for that. And now we also want to deal with, so that's actually easier than I was expecting it to be. And now, and I'm curious if anything happened here. And I think it's because, oh, ST animations is empty. So it goes to animation, it goes to ST animation services for ST mesh ID. So we have an ST mesh ID, which I'm thinking is 1. And then let's see, we want to create a new animation service. So let's just say ST animation service, and let's just create animation. And I believe, I don't know what we do here. Okay, all we do is give it a number and it'll create an animation. Okay, that makes sense. That's right, because animations are kind of standalone and they don't really do much right now. Um, what kind of number do we give it though? I think we need to give it a different number though, right? Oh, that's interesting. So this actually returns the actual ST animation ID. So we're giving it just a number and it'll return an entire ST animation, which does have an ID. So I think this can be like, I'm just going to do that. I don't const test ID. And that helps us because this one, it's going to be quite mysterious in the future what that we're trying to do. So usually, just hard code ID. Now, when we go to create an ST animation, we have to give it like a number. So const mesh count is equal to 1. The biggest reason I was like, oh man, this is going to be really confusing is if I just have one there and one there. I think that would be confusing. So const, and I believe this returns an ST animation. So now we have an animation. Now, what is it supposed to do? Okay, so now I think we need to add Okay, this update property for the given mesh. Okay, so if the three mesh exists, which it should, because we called it, and if animations st animation service. Okay, for st mesh ID. So this is going to get the animation for the mesh ID, which I think we just created, right? That's what we just did. We just created an animation in the animation service. But st animation for mesh ID really doesn't make sense because we did not associate the mesh to the um, this mesh, and I bet you it's an st mesh that we associate inside of get and inside of animations for mesh ID. So I will say I'm just trying to kind of deeply think of what I'm thinking right now. And what I'm thinking right now is that this animation, like something happens, there's some abstract thing that happens in here, and there's a dot that gets connected, but it doesn't happen in either of these. So there's something I need to connect up so that this makes sense. But it's not obvious to me what that is. So, and this is line 44. So get st animation, go to definition. So you're going to give it the mesh ID, and then it's going to go into the st mesh service, which doesn't exist. That's interesting. So st mesh service does not exist at this point. Um, which is really fascinating to me because like I'm just like never really thought about these, but see, so this st mesh service is a dependency. That is fascinating. Okay, so st mesh service is a dependency, and then here's where it gets created. So when we instantiate this thing, we actually end up creating an st mesh service that gets created as a result of this animation service being created. And up here, when we do this st animation service, we will end up creates an st, what does it create? It creates all of these things, right? It creates its own recyclable sequence service. It creates an animation dictionary, and then it also creates an st mesh service and uses this inject. So it ends up creating it as when this gets called, when st animation service gets created, it ends up creating these. So I think that means that the st mesh service exists. So up here, to kick everything off, we had to create our own services, but we don't have to create that other one because the st mesh service was created when the st animation service gets created. So this is very interesting to me because like what's happening is so this st anime in this scenario in unit tests, this st mesh service gets created because the st animation service gets created. But in runtime, that is not how that works. What it gets created, the ST mesh service, I'm pretty sure gets created before the ST animation service. So in effect, this unit test is not isn't the same context, which is probably a really good thing. But I do, whoa. Oh, okay, so we actually do have stuff broken. And it's because that ended up getting in here, which ended up creating a true. So actually, this right here is not an empty unpopulated. This is an empty and populated. And I'm freaking misspelled everything. Pop. Unpopulated. Pop. Not POAP. Pop. And this one I did spell properly. So this is not, it's empty, but it's populated, right? So this one should still be, this one should still be false. Pop. So this one should be false because like it never gets into this for loop. The minute it gets in this for loop, that's when populated becomes true. And then this becomes populated. This becomes populated. And it should be true. Now, I don't know if we're actually going to get in here. I don't know if we get a 3-mesh when we call this now. I think get mesh service. I think that will work. The 3-mesh service will get, yeah, the ID because the ID exists, right? So this actually ends up being, it's going to be the same as the test ID. Oh, okay. And then this should be the test ID. And I guess, you know what, just for the pot, why is animation, do we pop? Okay, why? Okay, so we created an animation, we give it a mesh count. See, at some point we have to connect this ST animation to the count. And I guess that's exactly what we're doing here. Like there's probably something behind the scenes that also connects them in runtime, but here we're actually manually doing that ourselves. But I think it does need to exist. We probably don't need it though. But up here, I do want to put like, oh, I would rather just capture it in a test. So we do expect we expect the test ID to equal to equal and then ST mesh ID. right? We expect those things to be the same because that's all it does is like, hey, do you have an ID? Okay, let me keep track of that. Um, I'm trying to think, like, I'm wondering if we end up with the situation where we will have more than one Three.js object for the same stid. I can't freaking contrive that in my head right now. All right, so we have one failed test. I don't really know exactly which test it is. Is it this one? Oh, I'm curious if this got better though. Nope, that did not get better. All right, let's get rid of this because we only have one failed one. I don't know which one is failed. I remember before it seemed like it was complaining that something that should be true was being marked as false. Okay, so we still have one failed and three successes. So basically what I'm trying to get to is three successes. Okay, I don't understand what's happening here because I'm just going to comment this all the way out because I'm very confused as to what's happening now. And also, like, you can't really count on the timing. So you cannot count that this one will run after this one. So that could be our issue is we might be like um, populating something that shouldn't be populated. What is it complaining about? Expected true to be false. All right, is this one true? I'm actually quite confused as to why. Okay, so we have three successes. So for some reason, this update for IDs is returning true, even though, oh, no, that is going to return true because all you have to do is get in the for loop. The minute you get in the for loop, it's true. Now, should we think through that? Maybe, actually, I guess it shouldn't. I guess it should be true because we didn't actually change anything. So what we want it to be true is if we get in here at all. And I'm wondering if get, let's see, what does this return? What does that return? Oh, that returns a whole mesh. So I'm just going to assume that if I get here, it's true instead of here. I don't know if this really will help in the real application, like, but it definitely, like, it's important that you at least go through one time and make sure that things make sense. It's not always going to make sense, right? Like with time, things will become like with time you'll forget things, but it's like sort of important like at some point to say, "Hey, okay, this all makes sense." And then move on. Like you're fine as long as is but that doesn't always happen. All right. So now let's undo this. And I think that I don't know. Like I watched a video and it was showing how like if you fail something over and over and over again, and then you are finally presented with something that you can succeed at, um, that you're likely to fail anyways because you're used to failing. You just sort of have a like a I guess a culture of losing. Um, and that I guess it's important to me that I actually see like success, 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 right? I'm trying to condition my brain to um, expect to win, I guess is what's happening. I expect to succeed. And if you fail a bunch of times without any successes, it's gonna be really hard to turn that around. So right now I'm just in the collecting wins. When I was a kid, I used to play Dungeons and Dragons all the time, and um, in Dungeons and Dragons, you get like um, like what happens is you roll up, you create like a character, and then you start going on adventures, and then um, as you go on adventures, you start collecting like experience points and all that. You start becoming comfortable with doing things, and you start, as you gain experience, you start to be able to accomplish more things. Um, but like, and I guess that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kind of condition myself. So that worked great, right? So yes, you tell it the ID, it returns the ID, right? And I guess even a little comment here will probably be helpful to me in the future. Okay, so uh, just does is add it to the dictionary and return the value, which is the key. So that's all we're trying to do there. Now, let's get our mesh count. That is the number that we send in. And basically, it's just this is a temporary random number. Number just for animation viewing purposes. Like that's definitely going to break in the future for sure. I think we're really confident that that's going to break in the future. I am very confident. All right, let's hit save. We definitely expect to succeed. If it doesn't succeed, const empty populated results. And so since it's empty, we definitely expect it to be false. And I think we had commented that out just because we're trying to find out what was broken. All right, has mesh ID populated results. So now we did that. We gave it the mesh ID that we want it to look for, and then it should go to our ST mesh ID and get that. But see, our ST get mesh by ST ID from the, oh, okay, so that one should work. And then get animation. Maybe this will work. I guess it should work. I think it should work now. Let's see. I think when I run line 65, it'll actually open that up. Okay, so we're good. Now I think this next thing, like, I think it should work. Let's just double check. Let's just get, oh, okay, so it was just slow. Let me reload. All right, so I think this should work. We have our mesh ID that we're passing in, and then we have our mesh service, 3Mesh service, which we're passing in. And we have our ST animation service, which we're passing in. Now, I don't know, something might get a little wonky in the ST in one of these services because I think maybe the ST animation service actually goes into the ST3 service to go ahead and get the data, and we did not populate that service at all. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Okay, so it did not work, and I think it's because it didn't get a 3Mesh. So this definitely should fail because we never even got in here because we didn't get a three mesh, which is weird because it's saying if this three mesh exists and the ST animations exist. Wait, so animations for each. So for some reason, get ST animations for mesh ID. Okay, so all we're passing in is the animation service. So the animation service is supposed to return a mesh ID. I mean, it's supposed to go into get animation is supposed to. Okay, so that is line 43. 3. All right. Why is that that doesn't seem like it should be a let. It seems like it should be a const. This is more like I'm just updating this so that I can see if, yeah, so yeah, nothing is changing it. We don't change this animation in this function, and I can be sure of that because I changed this to a const. Now we might change some value in it or something, I don't know, but it kind of blows my mind though. So it's saying that do we have a, I think it's saying we don't, oh, so it's saying that this is blank. So 3 mesh service get mesh by ID. Let's just do this. Else console.log hello. I don't want to keep this, but I just want to make sure that what I think is happening, which is that we're getting in here, but this if is not being. So theoretically, this should end up, hey Pebbles, this should end up being green. Or we should end up with like this, and then it's showing that it went in there. Um, oh no, so we're not getting in here at all. I think I can do this. Let's try this. I don't know. I feel like I remember being able to do this. We can type in the word debugger. And then I think what we need to do is we need to go over here. And I think all we have to do is hit F12 and then refresh. And I believe we'll end up in this debugger over here. Now the code will look weird. The code won't be particularly, well, no, the code is good. I thought that it would look weird. So our ST animations is empty. Okay, so that's the problem is if ST animations, so we're not getting any animations back. Now, what's cool about the debugger is now we can do this. We can close that, and if we hit reload, like the debugger only works while you're in debug mode. So now I have worked in places where they have like debugger everywhere in the actual production code, which is always a nightmare. All right, so our ST animations, so our get ST animations for mesh ID is not returning everything. Is not returning anything. And I guess that makes sense because where do we set it? I thought we were, well, I guess I thought we were setting it over here. Maybe we're not. 3 mesh service. Oh yeah, we don't ever set it. All we ever do is we don't do anything with the Oh no, wait. We create an ST animation here. Okay, so here we create one. So we actually, so I'm curious what we get. So what you can do is you can say const, or you can say expect, and then you can say like ST animation to, I think we can say to be false. And TypeScript, fortunately, TypeScript doesn't catch that, hey, there's no way it could ever be false, which is a good thing. And then I'm curious. So that should break. And it's saying, hey, like, hey, you, it's saying that expected false, but we actually got this back, which we got an ST animation ID. I wonder if that's the problem. Because I think we've always assumed that the IDs, like a test ID, would be different. So let's just do this to make sure that all works. So basically, we won't get um, an ID like a collision ID. Let's go here. Let's reload. See what we get. All right. So again, we don't seem to be getting any animations back. So create animation, and then all right. So I guess what we'll do is we'll go back over here, hit F12, hit this, reload, and wait for the debugger. As you see, we got nothing back. So let's put a debug statement there. We'll run this. Oh, we're back in here again. I'm going to pop this out into its own window. All right, so we are in our own window. It's off screen. There it is right there. We are debugging away. All right, so we pass it in the ST mesh ID of 2, and what we're hoping to do is get an ST animation back. But for some reason, we're not. All right, so I'm going to step into this one. Now, I would say that I believe this is Angular 21. Um, it does not look this good in like older versions of Angular. You don't get this code. The code is usually not like your code. It's like the transpiled code. So this is super nice. All right, get ST animation. It's weird that it's showing me all the way up there. Okay, I'm just gonna hit run. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Maybe we were like on an old one or something. Sometimes things can get really weird in this stuff. Okay, so we're gonna go. We're gonna click in, and so now we are in 3 animations. So we're still in the same class. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so here we're getting our mesh. We're trying to get a mesh. We're trying to get all the ST animations that apply to mesh 2. And up here we have our animations dictionary, which for some reason, guess we want to open this. Yeah, so we have our animations dictionary, but oh, but it's tied to one. Okay, that's fine. It's tied to one. Wait, no, the animation ID is two. All right, so all right, okay, clearly I don't understand how this works. I thought I had a really good grip on how this works. All right, so when we create our mesh ID, add to dictionary. I don't think we ever call add to dictionary. We do create animation though, and then we add it to dictionary with the ST animation. I think we might have found a bug because now this thing is going to the mesh ID. Oh, oh, okay, so it's going to the mesh service. Oh, okay, add mesh service two, but I don't think ST mesh service has anything in it. Yeah, see, our ST mesh service doesn't have anything in it at all, I don't think. So here, let's just double check that by going into it. And so I'm going to hit this. I'm going to go in. Hopefully it takes me in. So somehow we're at create animation. See, the timing isn't like something's off on the timing here. And this is one of those weird things that you get in. I think it's because it's, yeah, I don't know why. I suspect it's because they're running in parallel. Um, and I imagine if they don't run in parallel, um, the test can end up taking it probably saves a lot of time. But the thing is yeah, it kind of seems like they might be interfering with each other though. And maybe that's why you kind of have to do it as a before each. Um, so basically, like most tests I've noticed, they always run before each every time, if that makes sense. Like they run before each to populate all the stuff every single time. And I think it's because if you don't do that, like these timing issues can just these tests can just start stepping on each other. And I'm only saying that because I can't like I've seen this happen like a million times where like the tests just they were working yesterday, you made some small change that doesn't make any sense and now they don't work anymore. And it always kind of seems like something hokey like this is going on. Um, but okay, so our mesh service is not getting populated. I don't think. So if we go into the mesh service, we've never, see, we were saying get mesh by ID, it's going to the dictionary and doesn't have one. So, um, so that's really fascinating to me. So we really, because the way we put it all together in in the production, in the actual working application, we 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 compose all these things. We take all these pieces and we put them together and we build it up. But we're not doing that in the unit test. We're just trying to test this one unit. And the unit test is weird. And oh, okay. So now I'm starting to kind of think that's because this function is doing too much stuff. I mean, that's really the main problem. This function is just doing way too much stuff. It should not be doing all of this stuff. So I need to break this out. This piece, this function here needs to be its own standalone function that takes an animation and a three and does what it needs to do based on that. I think um, the biggest problem with that is that um, the biggest problem with that is we still have to iterate over it. Do we have to iterate over it if we don't? If we just pass it a function? Hmm. Yeah, see, I want to break this out into its own function, but it needs to know what the three is. And see, the thing is this is the three mesh. And so I'm really drawing a blank at the moment. But basically what we want to do is we so the challenge is that we want to break this function out and we just want to make it like a standalone function. But it does have to have access to this three variable. And so I guess we have to bind it. We need to take a function and we need to bind it to either this, like we have to say, hey, this is this, or we need to be able to pass it another argument. See what this is, and this is kind of the beauty of unit tests. What this is exposing is I have a real gap in my understanding of this concept. And I have from the very beginning. When this stuff first came out, it was very confusing to me. But this for each wants to accept a function. That function, we typically, just for the sake of convenience, will just pass in like a what they would call an anonymous function. But we don't want to pass in an anonymous function because that's freaking hard as hell to unit test. Honestly, that's the biggest reason. Um, but that function that we pass in needs to know more than just this. It needs to know this up here. And see, literally, well, I guess that's the thing is, okay, so we're in a for each and then we end up in another for each. Okay, so that I think is the problem. Yeah, this is just a really bad way to do this, I think. And I've gotten better since I started working on this stuff. It's kind of the point. One of the major points of doing this is to try to get better at this kind of thing. See, I have a for loop and a for loop. I feel like that's probably what you would call a bad smell anyways. Like for loops within for loops, something you kind of want to avoid in general, just because like that's why I'm getting so confused, right? Because it's just like I'm trying to do an abstraction on top of an abstraction on top of another abstraction. So like this whole piece of information needs to know the three mesh and the list of animations. Like that's what needs to happen next. See, all this function does is a for loop up here. On line 38, it's not doing anything, but on line 42, then it's doing stuff, but this guy probably should be something that takes a list of animations and iterates over them and goes and gets the goes and gets all right, okay, so this one's going to take a mesh. It's going to go get the mesh. It's going to go get the animations. And then I think I should call a function. It's called, what are we doing? For mesh ID. So this is for mesh IDs. And then, oh, okay, so we probably want to do it for three meshes. Okay, it's for three mesh. Okay, so update animations for three mesh. And we are in three. So this is exactly where we'd want to do this, is inside of three. See, we're trying, okay, so that makes sense. And I think this one all literally is just going to return a Boolean. And I kind of like doing it like, I like how I did this like that. We know it's going to need a mesh ID, a mesh. So it's going to need a 3 mesh and 3.mesh. And we also know that it needs a list of animations. Like it needs all of them, which is an array of ST animations. And then we need to open and close this, and we're just going to return true for the moment. And then basically, for the moment, we just want to copy this. I'm just copying it for now. I'll definitely plan to delete it completely. And then let updated equals false. And then if we get in here, we want to return updated. All right. So now we've pulled all of this. Nothing is complaining. It seems happy. So now we can comment. I think we can comment this out. And then we can say this dot update and update mesh. I do want to make a point here in a second, but I'll probably freaking forget it by the time. 3mesh, comma, ST animations. And we want to set updated to whatever this thing returns. Now this could be a mistake because we could end up getting a false back if one of the animations doesn't exist for whatever reason. But if that happens, I want to find out. All right, so let's just see that this transpiles. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if I made a mistake and now this doesn't even build anymore. Okay, so as you see, okay, this is old. As you can see, this is very, very old. There we go. So now we've defeated this one and all that. Now let's make sure the application still works. There we go. Yep, so this is still working. So that's good. All right. So now, at this point, I think we would expect this to be um, to still return false because we didn't actually populate the we didn't actually populate the S. Ooh, what went too far? We didn't populate the ST animation or ST visual ST3 ST mesh service. We never updated the ST mesh service. So we really exposed like a sort of a like a visibility issue, right? Like it's not visible anymore. I mean, it's not particularly visible that we have this dependency. It's like a hidden dependency um, on ST visualization. So this isn't as self-contained as I would like it to be. Okay, so we don't need this anymore at the moment. We may end up needing it, but well, we'll probably be good. All right. So now, but this has become easier, right? Because now we have an animation, a list of animations that all we have to do is create a couple animations and pass it in, and we should end up in this for loop. I still don't quite understand why we're not ended up in the for loop. I guess it's because this thing isn't returning what I need it to return. Right? So, so because this right here, I believe, is not returning anything, and it's because ST mesh dictionary is not populated. So I have a dependency on the ST mesh dictionary that is not particularly obvious here. Um, but I can pass it in an animation, right? And there's a lot of arguments to be said, like, okay, so fine, like, but we're not trying to test ST uh, mesh. We're not trying to test that ST mesh service. So who cares? That's not something we should be worried about at the moment. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Um, but I will say this one is now done though, right? This guy has done everything that it's like 100% covered and it all makes sense, right? There's nothing that doesn't make sense here. Updated is update animate. If like every one of these lines, I think is very clear and easy to understand. This, not so much. Well, I think it is so much because it's like you give it a three mesh. I can get a three mesh. You give it an animation, and then it takes my three mesh and it applies my animation to it. That's all it's supposed to do. So, but we didn't. That wasn't that easy to say, right? That wasn't that easy to say a minute ago. Now it's a lot easier to say. All right. So it. Okay. So with this thing, it should animate, should update um, a three mesh um, based on animations because you can have more than one animation per mesh. So that's why we have to iterate all over all of them. And I do think now I'm starting to understand, like when we were doing the debugger, I'm starting to understand why it's probably, oh, and we are doing it. Okay, so before each one of these, we are running this test bed. So these services are getting wiped every time because we're creating a brand new service. So that's fine. Now the crazy thing is the ST service may not be getting recycled. It might be sharing that. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I don't think I want this service, three mesh service. Ready? Uh, I don't even. I think this can be one again. I think that was screwing things up before, but I don't think it's going to screw things up now. Even though this is something that shouldn't ever happen in actual. Oh, I might be wrong. Oh, so we don't. Oh, so we don't even use an ST animation anymore. Do we even need an ST animation? I don't think we even need an ST animation at this point. Let's see. Things should be better now. Yeah, my granddaughter is throwing a fit downstairs. Huh. I don't think it ran. I'm not sure. Something's weird. Let's refresh this. Okay, expected false to be true. Okay, yeah, to be false. Yeah, this was kind of the case when that function was doing more than it was supposed to be doing. Now, I will say that, like, you know how, like, I just stopped everything and checked to see if the actual application, anytime you change, it is so easy when you do a unit test to say, you know what, I'm going to worry about the application working afterwards. It can become so hard to fix that. Okay, so now we're green again. Let's run this. Okay, this all looks good. And so now we have a new function called update. This is still working. Update animations for 3Mesh. I guess we should double check. Add, add, add. There we go. That looks good in the neighborhood. All right. All right. Update animations for 3Mesh is next. Should update a 3Mesh base. So we need a mesh. We know how to create a mesh, right? Because when we created a mesh, yeah. So we want to do this. We definitely want to create a mesh, an actual mesh, a ThreeJS mesh. And then and then we want to create an animation. Depopulate. I felt like we created an animation already. ST. Oh no, I guess all we did was create the animation service. This actually takes the animations. So const. How do we? I feel like. All right, so we create a mesh, and then we want to create an an animation. But I guess we just will want to create our own animation. Yeah, something like this. Actually, this is exactly what we want to do. What we did up here. All right, so we have a mesh, we have an animation. We want to pass it into my update animations for 3Mesh. So this is 3 animation class update animations for 3Mesh. This guy right here, and we want to pass it in our mesh first, right? Mesh, and we want to pass it in an array of animations. And since we don't really have an array of animations, we just have an animation. So let's see what happens. I'm very curious what the heck's going to happen. And I feel like I should know what's going to happen, but I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. So nothing broke, which is a good thing. All right. So that's nice. So we don't need this else anymore. All right. So this is going to call update property for animation. This in this function. So those original tests probably aren't even necessary anymore because basically all that literally did was, yeah, now we pass this, yeah. So basically we ended up using this as the middle ground for that. So that's good. That's really good. All right. So like I think the my first like when I was like, oh, I'm getting 100% coverage. I might have even started off on these animations. Might have been the original thing. Like that breaking things out used to took me like a week to get to that the first time. And now it took me like 20 minutes to go, oh crap, I need to break this out into a smaller units for unit testing. And then, hopefully eventually what'll happen is it'll just become like muscle memory. And which is a good thing because it'll make me a lot faster and all that, but it's kind of a bad thing because, it makes it once those things get into muscle memory, it becomes so hard to to teach. Like trying to teach it and explain it becomes really hard. Try to explain how to tie your shoes, right? Like I don't know if this is just an American thing, but in the United States we have shoelaces on. Most of our shoes have shoelaces, and we have a very particular way of tying it. There's a couple of variations, but for the most part, we all tie our shoes the same way. Like if you're sitting here and you tie your shoes on a regular basis, like try to think to yourself what the steps to tie your shoes are. It's like you really can't. You have to look at it and do it, and then you can explain, oh, this is why that's what's happening right now with me coding wise. But this is breaking things into smaller pieces would be nice to just become muscle memory. But once it does, like I said, I won't be able to explain it anymore. All right, so now update animations for render. All right, so we want to call this, apparently we want to pass in an ST renderer, one of our own renderers. We want to pass in the scene service, the ST scene service. So we do not have one of those. So I'm going to have to make one of those. And then three mesh service. We have one of those. Do we have an ST animation service? Yeah, we must because I pass it in here. Oh, well, look. Oh, I'm looking in the wrong. I'm not looking at my. All right. Oh, this one's done. So I guess we expect const. I think we expect this to be true, right? Update result. And then we expect update result to be to be to be true. So this is what we expect. Okay. So that's all good. That's exactly what I thought. So we gave it a mesh and an animation. Um, when it takes this, like we kind of expect this thing to do specific things to it, but like honestly, this is going to just keep growing, and when that refactors, like how I don't think checking the actual property makes sense at this point because like we're gonna have a whole different way of doing that. But so that's good. Just don't even know. Okay. So now update animations for render needs an ST scene. Okay, so let's just double check that I don't think we have everything. We have a three mesh service. We have a ST animation service. We do not have a renderer, but we could probably want to make one of those. We don't have an ST scene service. We do have an ST animation, and we do not have a three renderer service. So just don't know what I think of this. Passing, doing the So this is dependency injection and passing it in, and I did that to avoid runtime. I feel like this is a better way to do this than actually adding deferred. But maybe, I don't know. I just don't even know. All right, so we need our st scene service. So service. Oh, that should be lowercase, and then this should be uppercase. Testbed dot inject. The thing that makes me very sad about this is I'm pretty sure I'm gonna forget all of this. Like this whole injection thing and all that, just like it just doesn't happen enough to make it. Okay, what's the problem? Well, I guess we don't do it that way. That's right. We have to declare it up there. Okay, so up here we define what it is. And I guess we don't even have to add the let, huh? Okay, so now we have our scene service. We have our mesh service. I want to put I guess I should put them in order. So it's a little easier to see if I missed. Um, yeah, 3 mesh service. Then ST animation service. We got that. Is it 3 mesh service? Oh, we have that. Scene service and then renderer service. Let ST renderer service. ST renderer service. And see the thing that's kind of mysterious at the moment is that does the renderer service exist at this point, or is it going to be created at this point? I don't know. Because it may already exist, and the reason it may already exist is because one of these other services may actually create a renderer service. Or if it doesn't, then it'll get created here. So let's just make sure that nothing breaks. It wouldn't surprise me if we get one of those cyclic redundancy errors, like that would not surprise me at all. Because I like the more I feel like I understand it, the less I seem to understand it. It's weird. All right, so we should update all the animations for a given renderer. Now I don't know how that works. Update all of the animations. I just don't even know how that works. It's been a long time, and I think it's fairly complicated. So theoretically, I should be able to come up, hopefully, if all is well, I should be able to come up to speed very quickly. All right, so what do we need? We need a scene, but I don't think we have a scene, so we need to use our const scene. And this will end up, so like, this is a perfect example. All of these guys create a in a recyclable IDs service. So that exists. It exists because we created other services that use it. So and this is an ST scene, right? So this is weird, right? Because the very first thing this thing is going to do is it's going to go look in the scene service for a a scene for the given renderer. So we actually need a renderer. Well, so now I wonder if I create a renderer. I think when I create a renderer, actually when I create a renderer, by default it cascades, it creates everything else. That might have been a mistake. I don't know. But st renderer, which is an st renderer, is equal to st renderer service dot. I think it's get base renderer. And I don't even think and it doesn't give you a renderer, it gives you a renderer ID, which is a number. Now, if I want the renderer itself, but see, at this point, it's created a scene. So this creates a scene, camera, meshes, dot, dot, dot. I think it even an animation, it'll even create an animation. All right. So now I think that at this point, and see, that's the other thing is now, okay, that's an interesting thought to me. See, this renderer service, when it gets created, it actually creates all of these other services because I believe the renderer service actually injects all those things. So I'm curious. Okay, let's hit save. And now I think that if I move this to the top, what'll happen is um, now. So the way it was when I created this, I believe it created a new scene service, but I believe the way line 23 will now get an existing scene service because the renderer service, I believe, will create a scene service. This is not like, I know it probably feels like I'm just talking about like my application here, but that's just not true. It's actually, I'm digging into like the finer details of how the injector works and how the injector decides to create things. So you notice nothing broke, even though we're doing things like that in this way. And all so I believe all of these already exist now. Um, but I still need to call the injector so that I can get a reference to it. So in one case, I'm getting a reference. If I if I pull this down, then I'm creating one and getting a reference. And then when renderer service gets called down here, it's going and getting the existing reference. But if it gets called up there, then it's creating the reference, right? So those are like weird ideas that just like there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not being critical. It's just different. All right, so now we have our renderer ID. We created a base renderer. So we can pass in a renderer to this. And we have all these other pieces. We have the scene service, the mesh service, the animation service, and the renderer service. I wonder if I should have passed in the renderer ID instead of the renderer, um, and then use this renderer service to get the actual renderer. But see, this is trying to get the 3 renderer, not the actual 3 version. So anyway, so let's try calling this update. What's it called? 3 animation class dot update animations for renderer, and then we are going to pass it a. Oh, so we need the actual renderer that it did. So const render st renderer is equal to an st renderer is equal to st renderer service dot get renderer by ID. And so here's where we end up getting our st renderer ID. So over here we create the renderer, but we only get the ID back. Here we actually get the renderer. And I would say that I have, as of literally this morning, I changed my mind about something that I've been pretty strongly believing for like the last 5 years, maybe even 10 years. I think that it's probably super important to add a um, a state like NGRX, something like that. Because a state system, a state tracking system, whatever, because your chances of getting that, as long as whatever is handling all the state stuff, so anything that's handling memory, dictionaries, all that stuff, as long as that never, it only gets injected to things, it never injects things into it, it would be very, um, your chances of getting a cyclic error go down. Is that right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. Because like for me to be able to add it, I need to be able to get a reference to it. So I need to inject it, get it injected in. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I've changed my mind. I don't know. I just don't freaking know about that because I've never worked at a place where that NGRX or any of those state management systems were were not botched, wasn't messed up. It's very difficult to understand. All right, so we want to st scene service, and then st three mesh service. And what is next? So I'm looking over here at this st animation service, st, and then three. Did I not? I don't think I ever got the three renderer service. All right, let's go up there and get that bad boy installed. And this is nice to me, I think too, because it's like the unit tests are kind of another example of a way to define dependencies. Oh no, it's just called renderer service. All right. So we're passing in our three renderer service. Down here, and I think that should do that. What? Is it the ST renderer? Three renderer service. ST animation service. What's the problem? Oh, it never got assigned. I guess we would probably want to do it here. And this is literally the first time I've ever even thought along these lines of like, oh, where does this go? Like based on how this thing gets created. Nope, it's like that renderer service. All right, there we go. So let's see what we get here. Let's see if everything breaks, if it all goes to hell in a handbasket, or if This thing is now tested. Booyah. All right, so three animation class is supposed to return something called rendered, const rendered. And I believe that should be true. Like if we're getting back, yeah, we just set it to true. There we go. And now, all right, what do we got left? What do we got left? We just got this one left. Return void. Okay, so all this does is take this function. All it does is return this function, and the function never gets called, right? So strender. Okay, so it should create a an animation function a render. And then literally all it does is get a function, const function, animation function. And that is equal to, what is it? 3 animation class dot create animation function for strender. And then the first thing is our strenderer. Okay, I probably need to actually create a renderer. So we're copying this so that we can get our renderer. So this is going to get us an strenderer, which does all kinds of stuff. When you create this base renderer, it creates everything. But we actually pass it the whole renderer. And we also pass it an stc service. And we pass it a 3 mesh service. So I definitely feel like if I could start all over from scratch right now, I could do a better job of getting things built out in a more reasonable way. But is it mesh? What was it? Oh, we just did mesh. But I don't think I don't want to. I want to continue to use this code. I think this code is still good, really good code. 3 render service. Now I think this has to be this way. Like we have to pass in to this. The thing that uses this function has to pass in this. Like it has to pass its dependencies in. I don't think I have any other way of being able to get this done. So I'm curious what happens now. It won't get run. Like all we did was get it. But I think we can then run it. And see, like we can't really pass in anything to it. So we have the function and it already has everything passed into it. So I've never really seen anything else that does it like this, where you give it well, I guess that's not true. I see tons of things where you give it a function and it runs it. And see that basically the reason it got covered is because we just executed it. We got the function back. This thing returned a function that has no voids, and as you see, like a bunch of stuff happened in here. So now let's go up here. So we have hundreds all the way around. So let's go up here. Let's get rid of our f describe. Let's go back over here. Let's see if it actually updates. I don't think we have any. Yeah, I thought I'd seen one though. That was wild. There was one dim one. Oh, this guy. What is this thing? Oh, I never check anything, I don't think. We never actually check. So this doesn't return anything, so but we do expect animation function. So animation function is the name of the variable, and it actually is a function. So you can just execute it as a variable if you want, which is what we do right here. We just execute it. Dot. And we just want it to be truthy. I wonder if it can be a function. All right, so we're going to go with truthy. So that's just saying that it's something. It's not undefined. It's not an empty string. It's not a Boolean false. It's some truey type of thing. A lot of people really dislike that about JavaScript, but it's generally backend people. They just like don't like it because it's just not a very good idea, I don't think, in backend. But it works really great. So as you see, we got a lot more coverage now, I think. Okay, so there's two, looks like there's three files that are not 100% coverage. Now we can, I'm curious, is this? Yeah, so see, this is like right now my whole life at work is WCAG compliance. So compliance for people with um, like disabilities and stuff like that. But this definitely would fail compliance because you can't get to these with the tab. You can't put focus on those. All right. So we have a scene service issue, an app layout issue, and a routing issue. Wow. That's it. We're down to three. We have 15 lines of statements that aren't covered. We have 15 lines that aren't covered. We have 5 functions that aren't covered, and we have 4 branches that aren't covered. Um, so let's just I guess we would want to do this one next. As you see, we have two services, and both of them are uncovered. So this is our scene deferred dependency class. So this was an idea that we did. I think it's still a good idea, but I don't know. It's like a new thing. I could see that so I think all this does is return that. And I think actually this should be very, very easy to test. Because basically right now, I don't even know, I don't know. I don't know if this is even right. Like if this is a good way to do it. Actually, um, I'm curious what ChatGPT says. I suspect that um, I suspect ChatGPT will give me some weird comments. So if you go to D3, D3JS, right? So you go to the D3 and you go to this. I think this is where we want to go. And then you go to examples. And then you go to like this view, circle packing view. And so because I was like, man, ChatGPT has been annoying me lately. But what it was saying, and I've been trying to figure out because it keeps like bringing up like crap I don't care about, like and it'll say it's not blah blah blah, like and it's just like I didn't ask you about that, right? So I'll be like, ChatGPT, like are dogs generally bigger than cats? And it'd be like, well, dogs are often bigger than cats, but not because birds can fly. And I'll be like, why in the heck did you bring up birds flying? Like I just want to know if dogs are bigger than cats. That's like a yes or no or something. And it was saying that what it tries to do to be sort of um, conversational is it has like some chart that this would probably be the best. It has data laid out, and this would be kind of the best visualization. And then like if you were to come in here and it sees that like this guy is adjacent to here. So you might be asking about this. And so then it tries to choose from one of these as an alternate topic to try to kind of engage you in more conversation. So you're like, oh, I'm asking about are cats bigger than dogs? And apparently, a lot of times when people are talking about it in the bubble, they might talk about like birds flying. And so it'll try to like bridge that gap. But I find that to be insanely annoying. But anyways, so this, I'm going to ask it about this, and then it's probably going to talk about some other thing that is like in the same kind of world, but I guess, I don't know. But let's do this, ChatGPT. All right, so I wrote this code, get deferred dependencies. Use in Angular 21. Um, would So I check for nulls. I check for nulls because um, it's like it, it might help, but I'm not sure. So maybe adding that little text might sort of guide it into the right thing, right direction. Okay. I don't think that's true. So it's saying that this will never happen. See, it's saying that that won't happen, but I feel like it says in the signature, it says it could return an undefined. Okay, so wait, so it was undefined though, not null. Return an instance from the director. Not wait. Oh, maybe I'm the instance. Okay, returns the instance from the if defined. Otherwise, the not found value can be resolved. Returns all if it cannot. Okay, so mouse over to see the return value, the return values in VSC. This is what this is. Damn it. Why would you not? So yeah, I'm doing it wrong. Let's see if I can copy this somehow. It, it can return a not. It can throw not. It can throw found error if the service is not found. Okay, yes, Sinjari throws only if Anchor cannot find a provider for that token anywhere in the injector, for example. Um, one, okay. If not found, return it. If found. If not found, but a provider exists, create it and return it. If no provider exists. Okay, so what does provider exist mean? Okay. Oh, okay, so if it's provided, in your case, okay, so it looks like, okay, so it does look like we don't really want to do this at all. Okay. Okay, so it's basically so okay. So we throw if the service has never been defined. Code base. Question mark? Not exactly. It throws the current injector. The service can, but okay. So active provider. Okay, so in the export class, but if it is not provided anywhere, or I guess I don't understand what anywhere means. Okay, what does not provided anywhere mean? Not anywhere mean. I'm very curious about this stuff. This stuff is so a class by itself. Okay, a Angular. Okay, so not provided is that Angular dependency injection does not allow automatic does not automatically know it. You must register as a provider in one of these ways. Okay, so the minute I did this, okay, that became having this in the code. I guess Angular does like a scan of the whole thing, and if it finds this decorator, then it will do it. All right. So I don't think we need this, which then means that that whole unit test is good. And I know that we never did test that. So, all right. So now I'm waiting. Just need to scroll down here, and I really wanted to be done for today, but let me. It's 11:39. I usually hang out with my granddaughter whenever she's here from. Okay, what's going on? Why did this not? So it didn't rerun. I don't know why. Sometimes it reruns, sometimes it doesn't. Reload. But this definitely forces a full rerun. Okay, so now we're at 100% on that. So scene service is the next one. Get render. What am I doing? Do we even use this? Get renders for scene ID? So I don't even know what this get renderers for scene ID. So we forgot to do this completely. Get renderers because literally all this thing does. So basically what was supposed to happen, if I remember correctly now, is this get rendered for scene ID. Oh, so this thing was supposed to go to the scene, the renderer service. I guess we never did it. Is that right? Delete scene for renderer. If renderer IDs list. Okay, wait. Get renders by scene ID. Oh, okay, so we're getting this from the ST renderer service, not from here. I don't think. This. Where are you? Renderer service. Renderer IDs. So get renderers by CID, we used to try to get that from there. So I think we can get rid of this. So this is an entity scene, ST scene service. Let's see, let's just grab this. Control P ST dash scene service dot TS. And then the question was this get render that's on line 66. I don't think we need this at all. Because I think the idea was that this was like the general idea was that we would get the renders in here, but um, okay, so do we need this one? Okay, so I'm just deleting it. I think we don't need that. I think we basically are getting that behavior is coming from the renderer service now. Now, I don't know if it will, because it acts like it tested everything, but that sure was fast. So let's reload. Okay, so we have one little branch here. Oh, okay, and we can't even test this right now because, well, we can, but we can run a test, but we can't really do this in real life because we don't have this. So I feel like honestly, I think the smart thing to do at this point would be to comment that stuff out for future growth because we don't know exactly how that's going to work. But I kind of want to have a hint because my mind is in that mode, but this is not possible at this point. At this point, you cannot get more than one scene for a given renderer. Like it's a one-to-one relationship. We don't, but this is something that's coming in the future. I'm just gonna go here. I'm gonna say at this time cannot have more than one scene per renderer. And that this is gonna end up being like a like it's just gonna keep happening too. This isn't a one and done kind of thing, unfortunately. um, we're going to have this problem all up and down because nothing is like we don't have any many to many relationships actually implemented yet, I don't think. So, all right, let's go back. Go back. All right, so now statements. All right, so we have this app data layout and routing. Let's go look at app data layout while we're here, see if it's something silly. Okay, we definitely don't want to do that. Okay, and that's like, we definitely need to pull this into its own function. Um, like where we just call it and send it the route layout detail type. And then apply filters, if route detail type. Entities. Yeah, and so then this will just call that. And then, yeah, so this one's going to be this is going to be interesting challenges around the router. So move on because nothing's super obvious on that. And I do have some other stuff I want to do. So that was the routing, and then this is the data layout. Oh wait, no, this is what we literally just looked at. Well, maybe not. Yeah, it was this effect. Yeah, I want to move that effect out of I want to move that code out of there. Come on, this guy. So we have 2 lines of code that aren't covered in one function. Yeah, this looks like it'd be very simple. Literally all we have to do is call this set routing detail. So then we'll be back up to 100. Then I guess we'll do some end-to-end testing because the end-to-end testing needs to do like this. And let's just make sure everything is still working. So basically what we want is scene to be gone, right? Like scene is one of those ones that's gone. Now the whole story is for animations to be gone. As you see, we now only have, instead of 7, we only have 5. So now one of the things that I do need to keep in mind is that when we hit this and we add one, and then we come here, so we have 7, right? And so we might have actually deleted more than that. And now we come back. What? I did something weird. Oh, I was supposed to hit the back button. Maybe? Yeah, there we go. So now we have 9 because we have a visualization and the component that's associated with it as well. And so now if we come back, we hit delete, and now we come back. We're down to like 5. So basically we need to delete all these pieces, but I did wanted to run unit tests because that whole injecting and all that stuff, I just wanted to get like a deeper grip on that. But anyways, happy coding everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.